Hi and welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be doing love notes from your person for those of you in a no contact situation. There are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Malachite Pyramid. Group 2 is the Desert Rose Selenite. And group 3 is the Pyrite Cube. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups, or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you would like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. You chose the Malachite Pyramid. So I'm going to be getting 3 cards from 3 different decks, and let's see, what does your person that you are in a no contact situation with want you to know at this time? Okay, and they say, I am not available. So this is really tying into the energies of someone who is kind of retreating up into the mental body, very fear-based energy, very disconnected from their emotions at this time. The intensity of the connection, or even sort of in the aftermath of separation, some kind of wave of regret, a wave of karmic energy or repercussion may have really stunned this person, shocked them, and so they've kind of gone into the comfort zone of what is known and familiar. It's almost the idea of kind of the love that you're sending. There's a knock on the door of their heart, but they're choosing not to answer that. They're very fearful of stepping fully into the feelings, looking too deeply into all of that, and so maybe even kind of busying themselves with to-do lists or tasks in a very mundane sense. For some, this can tie into third-party energies and returning to an ex, kind of, chatting with people in kind of like a surface level way, just sort of spreading their energy very thin and very external to themselves in order to avoid something that has been shaken or awakened within them in the emotional sense. They also say, I want to tell you how I feel. So this ties into the idea of deep emotions that are there that are very contradictory to what is being shown or demonstrated by this person's behavior at this time. So it's kind of the idea of like appearances are deceiving, to start to really kind of feel into them energetically, as opposed to just purely judging the situation and circumstance based on kind of how you've left things with one another, what they're sort of leaning toward, or what you know are kind of their calming sort of coping mechanisms, or the crutches that they have systematically or historically kind of moved into. That this is something, it's just very much a fear-based response triggered by some level of intensity on an emotional capacity that they weren't prepared for, that they've never experienced before, that is challenging almost. The dynamic between the two of you challenges them to sort of step out of a version of themselves that they've been walking around in the world as for quite some time, masks and illusions, a sense of vulnerability with this as well, that they're wanting to believe in kind of the magic and possibilities of this situation, but then maybe sort of running as a result of feelings of this is too good to be true, or that they don't feel worthy of kind of being that adequate match, that equal partner, ways in which you've been very forthcoming emotionally speaking, or even just sort of radiating and exuding that energetically. It beckons and at the same time triggers them very deeply. So this feels to be a person who is kind of torn within the idea of moving in the direction of those fear-based polarities, and it gives some sort of like surface level comfort or just a distraction from the intensity of emotions, but then also a lot of magnetism in the direction of sort of what has been sparked, what has been activated, what is really stirred up within that was so intense and overwhelming that caused them to run. A desire to talk these things through, but it feels very even challenging to pride and ego for a lot of people to have those conversations, to admit this energy of weakness or vulnerability or perception of cowardice on their part that may stem from kind of how they were raised, their worldview, expectations and pressures that they put upon themselves. And so they're kind of just leaning into sort of the opposite plane of that, which is stuff, suppress, and deny. They also say, I don't react when people mention you. So definitely trying to just sort of put on a brave face, pretend that everything is going wonderfully, they're living their best life, but whatever's being presented on the surface, it's a very different portrayal or picture or experience internally. A lot of storminess coming through with this, kind of turbulent emotions, very much compelled in your direction, feeling very shipwrecked at a distance from you, not really sure if they're sort of ready to take that next step and level up, even if that level up just involves opening up to a state of vulnerability within, admitting fears even to themselves and taking steps in a direction kind of contrary to that. So it's the idea of kind of clinging to the illusion, maybe even sort of buying themselves more time as they're trying to like ride out some sort of storm within, a sense of kind of even the higher self sort of nudging this person to say there is something important through this experience of kind of running and denial that it will in some way be beneficial should the possibility to rekindle the connection, reconcile, or move back in the direction of more cohesion in the future. There's something to be experienced from kind of this dark and avoidant period, something that they're feeling that they need to kind of find, or that is very necessary to sort of sit in sort of this opposite polarity of where their heart is calling them towards. They also say, I am overcoming my fears. So this can speak about, again, like riding out those storms, those waves of emotional turbulence. For some, they may be kind of on the brink of trying to bring forth some sort of olive branch, some kind of communication, wanting to participate more in the situation with you than they have up to this point in time. But then a lot of even just fear of the unknown holding them back. Will I be rejected? Is it too little too late? Am I ready to fully and consistently participate in something more with this individual? It feels like they have kind of at least once sort of vacillated between full disclosure of both the hopes and the fears in this situation, and kind of then talking themselves back into a place of it's just better to kind of keep this personal truth within. It's just better to leave the situation as it is. It's just better to kind of leave those loose ends that may exist between the two of you, kind of flailing and not having been dealt with, because to deal with these things, to address these things, even a state of saying I don't know if I'm ready for what comes next, it opens the door to a level of kind of self-reflection and emotional exposure that it feels like is definitely a nerve ending for this person that has been triggered, that has been activated, that has been tapped into, touched upon, that is sort of the major obstacle in the possibility of something more perhaps in the future in this situation. They also say, I think so highly of you. So they may be putting you on a pedestal to some degree, even just kind of comparing how open you have been about your feelings towards them, towards life in general, the ways in which you are able to express joy and also questioning. All of this is very inspirational to them as far as another way of moving through the world and kind of relating to other people on an emotional level that might be so different from how they are accustomed to kind of presenting themselves And there's this urge to want to just rise to the occasion, to fly right alongside you in this energy of openness. And yet at the same time, this kind of fear-based polarity within that almost questions themselves when they are leaning in the direction of the possibility of reaching out, or giving something more, or just closing the nature of feelings that have been withheld. It's a sense of almost like, is this right? Do I have permission to do this? Am I allowed to be this version of myself even? So a lot of kind of like inner child, wounded inner child energy coming through here, as far as like they're wanting to join you in that sort of light of love, or in rebuilding the connection, or even just bringing forth the energy of an apology to kind of create closure. And yet at the same time, it's this fear of almost being punished, ridiculed, rejected, hurt, disappointed, or even kind of getting your hopes up only to disappoint you further down the road, that seems to kind of keep them retreating from this essence of leaning towards you, projecting this energy of kind of desire in your direction, only to sort of pull back within their shell. They also say, I just can't walk away. So whatever has been triggered, whatever is kind of very confrontational about the nature of these feelings, it goes deeply into the root of who this person is. It almost feels like something that the more they try to move into a space of being comfortable with all the unknowns in your situation, with the nature and intensity of what they're feeling that may have come on very quickly, or is in some way kind of beyond what they've known in love and partnerships before, there's a sense of almost kind of these core wounds within that grab them and say, where do you think you're going? This is the way that it's always been. Who are you to kind of operate in the energy of connection with another person in a state of openness, when you have always been so closed or deceptive, or keeping so much kind of hidden, or in reserve? So there's a sense of that they feel very, and have felt in the past, very free in your presence, a lot of possibilities, pleasant changes, but then almost kind of an energy here of sort of self-sabotage, or doubt and denial about like personal worthiness. Can feelings and experiences like this last? Am I a person who is deserving of these blessings, of the blessing of this kind of love, this kind of partnership, this kind of connection, these kind of feelings? And the more they want to lean into that space of worthiness, running towards that light of love, it's almost like the shadow component of them sort of keeps them at a distance, keeps them in a state of just perpetuating a cycle of hurt, or disappointment, or silence, or questions. They also say, I am trying not to lose faith. So this can definitely indicate that your person is going through some sort of dark night of the soul at this point in time, a deep existential crisis. It feels to be something that's far more than just grappling with the nature of these feelings that has been triggered or activated. If there are components of your dynamic, or of your relationship, maybe kind of the idea of like opposites attract, or like a yin yang sort of thing or situation, there may even be a level of questioning that can tie into this energy as well, with I just can't walk away, of sort of where would you, or how would this relationship fit into kind of the strata of their life, that in some way they're maybe just looking at oppositional forces compared to the types of relationships people around them have, the nature of emotions that are expressed, things that are talked about and shared. And so leaning into this place of kind of the ego, the pride in the ego, looking at obstacles, coming up with all the reasons why the situation just isn't meant to be, or it's better that you remain at a distance from one another. And despite all of this, it feels though that they keep being drawn back at the heart level to, despite all of these things, despite all of these challenges, internally or externally, they're still very much pulled in your direction, and wanting to explore this, feeling almost that with you there was the possibility of a safe space to be emotionally open in a way that they've never known before. And that brought with it a sense of freedom, but also this deep-seated fear of exposing themselves so authentically and in such a raw nature to another person, that there's a part of them that wants to sort of overcome this challenge, wants to, at the very minimum, sort of bring an apology, whether you would take them back or even sort of hear that out. There's some part of them that knows that there's something more that they need to provide or give. For some it'll be little deeper explanations, all the way up to kind of, feelings that are uncovered or disclosed that were sort of hidden before. There's a big part of them that knows they need to take action in some capacity in order to kind of close out a cycle or a circle in this situation, or to really kind of explore and actualize upon all this raw potential in the situation. And yet core wounds, fundamental building blocks within them, all they have known of love and partnership up to this point personally and in what they've observed in others, in some way is even just vibrationally challenged by the nature of this dynamic, this connection between the two of you. And so it's a struggle on an existential level. Am I ready to give up my perceptions, my heuristics as far as love is concerned, all of my wounding, and kind of step forth into the possibility with faith that I might just be pleasantly surprised at what the outcome of sort of that step in the direction of the uncomfortable and the unknown as far as emotions are concerned, that can turn out to be something beautiful instead of just something that falls apart. And they also say trust in the infinite possibilities. So that's kind of giving more of that overthinker vibes. Definitely somebody who's in their head right now, leaning into kind of like coping mechanisms, a lot of fear-based strategies. If I just try to outrun these feelings, maybe they will go away. But that times where it's almost sort of they back themselves into these little corners, or they're in the midst of whatever the nature of that distraction looks like. And they kind of get into this Zen rhythm. They keep being brought back around to sort of these thoughts of you and having taken a wrong turn. And that almost feels to be something which gets the wheels turning as far as strategy, as far as fantasy about different sorts of outcomes. What if I had chosen a different path or approach? What if I moved towards this person? What if I, come back from out in the shadows and sort of step into the light with my feelings or with communication? What if I, unblock kind of our line of communication? What if I reach out? All of these different things that kind of circulate through their mind, and it feels like they're regularly sort of pulled in the direction of speaking some of this. They may catch themselves sort of just on the brink of kind of action or movement or something that they want to bring forth to you. And then those tethers are sort of pulling them back into that fear-based polarity. Then it's the worst case scenarios that are popping up that sort of cause them to retreat back into this place of watching this connection, but from a distance, being very avoidant of the nature of their own emotions, doing everything they can to busy themselves so that they are not sinking into this place of almost like regret, and some kind of vibration of feeling that has capsized their worldview as far as what emotions within themselves are like. They also say cutting fake people out of my life. So this can tie into, again, anything about sort of this connection, the situation that in some way conflicts with kind of the nature of partners, of other people in their lives, experiences that they've had in love and partnership, maybe even kind of like ghosts of the past. That can be sort of this tether, this anchor that keeps them from reaching out and sort of moving the situation in a new direction, or may have even been a culprit for them retreating from you or disconnecting from the situation in the past. It's the idea of, I have these deep feelings. I am so compelled towards you, yet I do not want to get hurt again. With the idea of possibility of what might develop between the two of us is also this huge kind of swarm of all the times where I followed my heart and was wrong. I followed my heart and it didn't work out. I let somebody so close that they were able to hurt me. All of those wounds, all of those things, it feels like for the most part have not been adequately or deeply or even sufficiently in some cases dealt with. And so in order to kind of experience something more in the situation with you, in order to be able to create movement forward, there's a need to sort of confront these and battle these wounds within them, to kind of self-soothe and talk themselves into a place of, no matter what has happened in their past, no matter how the promise of love dissolved into sort of the absence of love, that these feelings that have been stirred within them for you and by virtue of this connection it is worth the risk of disappointment in order to take steps toward the possibility of deep and profound fulfillment that will bring its own level of healing, and also discovery of sort of new terrain of what love and partnership and connection and intimacy with another person can be like. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got K, P, D, E, I, O, Y, S, T, X, V, W, B, B, E, Z, L, and C. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channel letters, including a longer video version of this reading with more cards and more decks. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And now through the end of the year, I'm running a sale on jewelry and dream catchers. They're all marked down 25%. So if you've had your eye on anything, now would be a great time to take advantage of that sale. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link to that in the description box of the video, as well as in the channel section of my page. The format over there consists of readings related to topics other than love and romance. So if you're looking for something a little different from me, that is the place to find it. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the Desert Rose Selenite. So I'm going to be getting 3 cards from 3 different decks, and let's see, what is your person that you're in a no contact situation with want you to know at this time? Okay, and they say, I wonder if you are happy without me. So for some of you, this person could be watching you on social media, watching you pick up the pieces in the aftermath of the situation, making efforts and taking steps toward living your best life. And even if they were the one that sort of cut things off or went cold, withdrew, or withheld their love from you, it feels like they're now in the state of feeling very much on the outskirts of your life, yearning for a way back in, regretting decisions that were made in the past, or even a sense, it feels like for some, of feeling that they underestimated you, they missed something about you, something that was almost just kind of hidden in plain sight in terms of the potential of who the two of you could be together to one another in a romantic capacity, qualities about you that really are now in some way shining through, even just energetically speaking, that align with kind of what they are looking for in terms of partnership, the idea of kind of things that they're experiencing and seeing that may have been sort of packaged in an uncommon way or were presented from a space that they were not maybe used to experiencing or receiving, qualities that you're presenting that were sort of new for them, that they had overlooked at first glance, but are now sort of recognizing fit and fulfill a lot of the needs or requirements that they have had for themselves as far as a partner. And the sense of kind of almost fearing the otherness and how it was presented through you is now something which it's almost bringing forth the sense of regret that how could I not see that this is who this person was, this is the kind of person that they are, this is the way in which these different sort of qualities or aspects of them are a very positive force and influence in the lives of people around them, had been a very positive force and influence in my life when we were last dealing with one another. So it's a sense of kind of almost watching from the shadows, maybe for some even planning a way back in. Depending on the nature of sort of what led to the no contact situation, it may just be working up the courage to sort of open those lines of communication again and kind of start to rebuild from this point. For others, it's going to be a little more tricky than that, and kind of apologies, explanation, demonstration over time of changed action in order to rebuild trust. Kind of a prolonged strategy will be involved, but it's almost kind of like they're circling the perimeter of your life. If you don't have social media, or they don't have social media, this can even just be something sort of energetically speaking, or maybe even people that you know in common that have mentioned things. This can even indicate somebody who's like Googling, trying to find out, where you are, may have learned of different sorts of changes, or has attempted to kind of even reach out or find you in some way, and you've changed. You've changed your number. You've moved. You've relocated. You are no longer accessible in the way that you once were. And it's almost kind of the sense of knowing what you have now, that it's gone, coupled with a feeling of like too little, too late. Have they missed their chance? Have they missed their window of opportunity with you? Seeing or kind of sensing that in some way, despite everything that's happened, you're almost kind of better off than you were when they last saw you, or you are kind of further along your path of growth and healing than they expected you would be at this point in time. They also say, sometimes I stay awake thinking about you. So this idea of sleepless nights, it ties into, again, a lot of strategy. For a lot of people, this is someone who's wanting to reach out and communicate and may feel very frustrated because those lines of communication have been undermined, altered, or disintegrated in some manner. If you've like changed your phone number, maybe you don't have social media anymore, you are not as accessible as you once were. This can also speak about kind of the chasm that has now developed between whatever level of trust existed, the intimacy, the partnership, the sense of comfort between the two of you that has now been replaced with kind of this eerie or uncomfortable silence. So they don't really know how to move towards you, what to expect, and understanding in some way that things have changed, that requires an up-leveled version of them, or sort of a different approach and strategy than had been the case the last time around. And they're giving a lot of thought to what would that look like? How would that unfold? Is now the time? Do I even still have a chance and an opportunity? Kind of moving back and forth with a bit of fear, but it feels like a lot of determination for the energies so far in this group of, I have to find a way forward, or at least come up with some sort of solution internally speaking. So it almost feels like the voices of fear within that might say it's too little too late, it's just setting yourself up for rejection. These voices are kind of noted, but they are still very much fixed or focused on this idea. For some, even just driven from like an ego-based place. They're seeing that you've had a glow up, and it's making them want to sort of move in closer to that energy. For others, though, this is going to be something where it is genuinely seeing you from a different perspective, which is bringing forth like a humbling or an uncomfortable truth within them about how they judged or failed to recognize the importance and value of sort of you in this connection in the past, that is motivation to try and find a strategy beyond kind of obstacles that exist, or even obstacles internally speaking that had undermined the connection previously. They also say, I replay our conversations over and over. So if you've sent this person like voice memos, for example, voice messages, there's voicemails on their phone, they're listening to that just to try and get like a feel of your energy. Something about your voice is very activating for this person. This is also, again, though, talking about this idea of kind of scripting in their mind how this would work if they were to emerge out of the shadows, bring forth that apology, open those lines of communication again. A lot of regret over words that may have been spoken hastily or without thinking. That if they had just sort of been going through the motions before and very unconcerned about sort of the emotional wreckage, that carelessness, or even kind of some degree of like deliberate cruelty on their part to try and push you away, push the connection away. Maybe they were overwhelmed by their feelings, or kind of uncertain if they were really ready to kind of take things to the next level, and may have gone about the process of dismantling the situation from kind of a shadowy energy. They're thinking about this now and almost sort of feeling this sinking feeling of, how could I have handled this situation in this way? How could I have talked to this person in this manner? Is it even possible for us to get back to a place of harmony with one another? Or, have words been spoken? Or even just the heaviness of a period of time with no words. Is this too heavy of a burden? Is this too big of a mountain for us to move beyond in the direction of a fresh beginning? They also say, trust your feelings, not appearances. So if you are able to see them on social media, they may be either posting very little, or things that are just very ordinary, trying to kind of make it appear that nothing has changed, life is just going on, business as usual. But it feels like there will be a very different story told for most of you that are resonating with this, that there's a lot of thought energy that is being directed in a constructive manner, finding a way beyond obstacles, finding a way even beyond sort of the obstacle of internal confusion, or kind of conquering those sort of intermittent fears that come up, that by virtue of the fact that energy flows where attention goes. You may be feeling waves of sort of desire, longing, intensity, even just kind of waves of this person's energy coming towards you. Maybe even after a period of kind of a drought, it was kind of silent. It was kind of cold on their end. You were just sitting in your own energy, going through your glow up, going through the motions of your world and your reality. And all of a sudden here this person comes, energetically speaking, that there's a deeper truth to the nature of what's in their heart and what's in that internal landscape, that the energies you're feeling coming from them describe. It articulates that truth in a way that the mask, the presentation, whatever is being shown or withheld in kind of the 3D sense at this point in time, that's almost just what they're wanting the world to see, what they're wanting to present. It's almost kind of like keeping that disguise in place so that they have time to sort of go through this process of puzzling their way through this. How do they move beyond what has been created in this situation in the direction of some sort of breakthrough, some sort of movement? And with that is even kind of this element of, for all the best laid plans, will they take action? That feels to be a factor as well. That there's almost a part of them that is sort of, for some it'll be kind of conscious, but for others it feels to just be from the higher self level of sort of, it's the energy, it's the message of like, I'm working on this. I'm trying to work a way through this. I'm trying to find a way beyond sort of what has happened or the obstacle of me. But if I don't get there, if I don't move to that place where I'm taking action, if I don't sort of work up the courage to open those lines of communication or try to make things right, I need you to know by virtue of these feelings that there is still something here energetically. There's still something here emotionally. There's still kind of something that may open up future timelines and potentials and possibilities. And they also say distance is hard for me. So time that may have compounded in between your last interactions with one another. It's like every day that goes by, it becomes more and more difficult to just pick up the phone or type that message, make that effort in your direction. Every day also serves as kind of this example of, if they get to that place of being able to reach out and return, when that moment occurs, that they're going to have to bring something that is so next level from how the two of you were dealing with one another. And this isn't to say like they'd have to come through groveling, begging forgiveness, although there may be a degree of sort of pleading their case that may be relevant for some of you in terms of, kind of restoring balance in this situation. But there's an understanding within them that they need to be able to go the distance in this situation, that kind of the time for back and forth has reached its conclusion. If they are interested or able to kind of continue on with you into the next cycle of your experience based on how you've kind of taken the conditions of what has happened in this situation. It feels like for a lot of you almost use this to your advantage, or you've created something very beautiful, kind of the motivation to heal yourself or lean more deeply into the polarity of love in kind of a more all-encompassing way, that it has raised the bar or standard for this person in terms of, if you come back, come correct. If you come back, this can't just be with sort of temporary or impulsivity. It's got to be embarked upon from a place of knowing, groundedness, and rootedness. And so that's something that it feels like is weighing very heavily upon them. And the more time that goes by that they just sort of sit in this place of strategy and these waves of energy being projected in your direction, the more kind of pressure is put upon them to really sort of really give this their all if they hope to crack open the door to something new with you. They also say, I'm going through a spiritual awakening. So that can tie into this energy of really kind of having an inventory of things that have occurred in the past with you in this situation, things that are being called into question as far as their motivations in the past in this situation, fear-based polarities, anything about kind of their ideas of self and kind of love and the nature of reality that in some way collided or conflicted with the experiences of transcendence that they had with you, or something where even kind of their heart was opened or awakened in a way, and how confrontational that might have been, that in sort of the silence, in the separation, in this no contact period, there's a lot of internal changes. It's the idea of like still waters run deep. So definitely for a lot of you, this person almost feels to just be in this kind of stonewalled King of Cups energy. They're not showing anything on the surface level, but beneath the surface, there's this whole churning body of experience, things that are being brought to their attention, things that are being released, things that are being cycled through. But for the most part, they're very motivated to sort of see this energy of change through to some place of completion. Either completion and resolution within, if they choose not to take steps in your direction, or some kind of resolution where they are able to present and bring forth something to you that is more meaningful than your last interaction, that brings with it not just good intentions, but the present ability to kind of build upon that in a measurable way. They also say, I feel like I'm obsessing over you. So there's that confirmation of a lot of mental energy, a lot of planning, a lot of strategy. How do I move this situation forward? What have I done? How do we remedy this circumstance between the two of us? Is that even possible? An awareness that likely, or even for some it'll be kind of like a fear, wondering and fearing, like, is this person gonna be able to sense these energies? Can I keep these things hidden? Especially if they know, if you're perceptive or you read energies, that might be a factor or consideration. How private is this? How quiet are these kind of reflections within themselves? They may have some kind of surface level working knowledge of manifestation, and so it's an element of kind of almost pulling out all the stops to try and move through the obstacles between the two of you. Not only with the strategy are they coming up with like the words or the course of direction to change things, but there's a sense of almost like, can I bring this into my reality through the sheer virtue of the fact that I'm investing so much energy in the direction of what I'm trying to call into my reality or call myself home to. And they also say, I did some research on twin flames and it resonates. So that can be a confirmation if you consider this person your twin flame. You are the chaser, they're the runner. Maybe you've given up the chase, and that has changed everything for this person. that has caused them to collide very, very profoundly and very acutely with something within them that sort of caused the dropping of this situation, the disconnect of this situation, abandoning this situation, not acting upon kind of potential or working to sort of remedy difficulties that you'd had or fight harder to kind of transcend fears of the past. There's a deep sense of introspection and kind of looking back, starting to have almost for some like a surface level working awareness of the necessity of things that have unfolded, the necessity of time apart, so that they could move into this place of being that observer on the outskirts of your life, looking in, wanting to have that place closer to you, missing the warmth and intimacy you once shared with one another. And in that process of longing, a bridge is built beyond kind of where they are presently, whatever has contributed to that within themselves, for the purposes of like, and by virtue of the fact of personal growth, to get to that place where they're able to sort of bring forth something that is meaningful and measurable, and has kind of the tone of longevity to it. They also say we are strongly connected in the 5D. So again, for some, they're going to have kind of a working knowledge. For others, it'll be a little deeper of a knowledge of the nature of energy, manifestation, trying to actively kind of call in some sort of change in this situation, change for the better, or even a version of them that is able to kind of meet you at that level of acceleration that you're on, at that elevation, that glow up that you've achieved for yourself. This is almost the essence of somebody kind of sending out these signals of like, wait for me, be patient with me. I'm trying to find a way beyond all of this, beyond what has happened. So again, very likely that communication is kind of a factor in this situation in terms of somebody that may be, depending on what has happened, almost kind of creating some sort of an apology, something that may just be a last ditch effort to say, can we start over? Is it too late for us? Or even kind of, I know it's too little too late, but I need you to know that I've had some degree of self-reflection, and you didn't deserve to be treated that way, or I didn't give the connection a fair chance, almost just sort of giving you that vindication that may be long overdue. And for others, it's the essence of kind of working up this courage to start participating with the situation more, rather than kind of remaining tucked away or at a distance, especially if it's something where it's not even like a fight or an argument, but just, conversation or connection sort of dwindled between the two of you. The intensity of things, this idea of like sparking and awakening and twin flame recognition and all of that. Really just kind of hitting them out of nowhere, and something where they've needed to kind of take that time to process, to digest all of that. And in the midst, kind of reaching this place of, I want to move this situation forward. I want us to return to kind of the space that we once shared before things fell apart. I want to give this situation another chance, or kind of give you more than I have in the past. So I'm going to get some initials. These can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got F, L, O, A, M, O, H, Y, E, Y, U, P, D, I, K, V, B, and N. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channel letters, including a longer video version of this reading that involves more cards and more decks. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And now through the end of the year, I'm running a sale on the jewelry and dream catchers. Everything's marked down 25%. So if you've had your eye on anything like that, now would be a great time to take advantage of that sale. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link to that in the description box of the video, as well as in the channel section of my page. The format over there consists of readings related to topics other than love and romance. So if you're looking for something a little different from me, that is the place to find it. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the Pyrite cube. So I'm going to be getting 3 cards from 3 different decks, and let's see, what does your person want you to know right now from their higher self? And they say it was my fault, but I blamed you. So the person on your mind, the person you're watching the reading for, could be a master of self-sabotage, some kind of larger cycle that has played out in their life multiple times, has also played out in the situation with you, the type of circumstance where things are going well, and because things are going so well, it triggers a deep sense of insecurity. When's the other shoe gonna drop? Is this too good to be true? Nothing good lasts. And so that really might have activated almost like a domino effect for this person of even just energetically creating dissonance, creating little fights or arguments, even internally within themselves, starting to run from a recognition of feelings, run from that energy of cohesion and peace and electricity that was generated between the two of you in mundane times, during deep conversations, just the essence of kind of the flow and intermingling of your energies with one another. It feels to be something very intense, something that triggered them, that startled them, startled some kind of emotional reaction that led to the dismantling or outright destruction of the connection in some manner. And so while an apology may be owed for a lot of you, or there's a sense of understanding within that kind of the path to their highest good involves sort of corrected behavior, or a little bit of kind of regretting the decision that had been made, or allowing patterns from themselves in their past to kind of take over in this situation and spoil what the two of you had with one another. They're taking a lot of that responsibility onto themselves. Although it takes two to tango, it feels like they are most comfortable, or they're in sort of a state of needing to really sort of take that responsibility on, really look deeply within and say, what are these aspects within self that contributed to the situation of decay here, and what within themselves therefore needs to be sort of course corrected, or is now available for inspection and introspection on a deeper level, so that even if a reconnection doesn't happen, even if reconciliation is not possible, that in some way there's benefit that occurs out of this situation. That as painful as this is, it's an opportunity for this person to start to look at patterns that they might not be so ready, willing, or able to kind of call to the surface of their awareness, ordinarily speaking. Things that they've avoided within, that now this uncomfortable and ugly truth is staring them in the face of sort of how this is played out. So it feels like a crucial moment moment at this point in time in terms of personal growth, breaking of certain cycles and patterns, but then in conjunction with that is almost this essence of knowing deeply within an apology is owed, or some kind of change behavior and action is owed in their part. They also say, I want to be more than friends. So this could definitely be a situation where it's a friendship, people caught feelings, and the intensity and nature of that was very unexpected, maybe due to circumstances in your life or in their life that would complicate the actualization of these feelings into anything concrete. And rather than sort of leaning into a place of openness and let's talk this through, let's find a way through this, it almost feels to be something where they pulled the rug out from under this situation. They kind of kicked the tripod over in this situation and are now sort of dealing with the aftermath of that. The actions I've taken internally or externally has created distance, strain, stress, or outright no contact, when truly what I wanted is to evolve this situation further beyond the dynamic, beyond the understanding, going in deeper, diving in deeper, looking toward a wider horizon, starting to kind of lean into or plan kind of those romantic elements with one another, or kind of the deepening or expansion of that in some way. And so they've almost kind of they've put themselves at a distance and are now sort of in this energy of recognizing that as much as that might have felt like the most appropriate course of action, they're now feeling very distanced from wish fulfillment, from everything that they had wanted, from whatever that kind of harmony and chemistry between the two of you was in the past, or is to some extent. There's a yearning to kind of move back in that direction, but understanding it's a long road to get to that point. There are qualities within themselves that have kind of led to this, or they're looking at the situation from that angle, trying to almost make friends with these shadow qualities within, trying to negotiate with these qualities within them that would take something very beautiful and kind of participate in the creation of wreckage. They also say, I hide behind material things. So again, kind of the deep intensity and nature of their feelings, the bond between the two of you, shared experiences. This may have been very triggering or confrontational to experiences that they've had of love and partnership in the past. If this is a situation of like friends where feelings developed, this can tie into, third-party situations, geographic distance, lifestyle, culture, religion, background, upbringing, all these different things that kind of make up the core qualities of how they've defined themselves as a human being up to this point in time. That in some way, the nature of sort of what's been unleashed or what's possible in this situation, it's calling for them to really evaluate these things. What in my life, internally or externally, is a resonant match for the actualization of greater potential with this individual? What in my life needs to be kind of cut away from or sacrificed or discarded in order to create that space of openness where I can actualize upon this potential with this person? So it feels like something where for a lot of people, this is a case of someone who just maybe needed some space or some distance, needed to kind of get some perspective, or needed to open up and kind of trust in the bond between the two of you to talk this through. And they've kind of leaned into a place of sabotage, self-sabotage, rather than kind of expressing openly, I feel very out of my depth and element. I feel very overwhelmed. I'm feeling all these feelings that I don't know how to explain. I don't know what's happening. I don't know how to navigate this. They instead have just chosen to kind of crumple the situation and move in an opposite direction. And yet that has not, it feels like, yielded them the sense of true comfort and peace. They are not currently aligned with sort of what that higher good or what that higher potential is. There's a lot of focus on sort of how do I move back in this situation? What within me needs to kind of be excavated in order to create a clear path forward to something more, declaration of things that were withheld, or some degree of an apology to try and create a clean slate, like a fresh canvas upon which the two of you can build in another direction. They also say I am breaking free from my past. So confirmation there of taking personal responsibility at this time to really do the work on themselves. At the very least, that can involve just sort of asking some tough questions, really evaluating or reevaluating their views on love and partnership, wounds, ghosts of the past that they've been holding on to, current partners and connections, lifestyle choices, anything that sort of conflicts with the development and the furtherance of the situation with you that had been an obstacle or a wedge or an interference in the past. There's an element here of, you make me want to be a better person. You make me want more for myself. You make me believe more is possible emotionally, in terms of even like the feelings that you generated within them for themselves, independent of kind of the loving energies or the chemistry or the potential between the two of you. There's something where they almost kind of, they see a degree of hopefulness within that, like positive changes can happen, or a greater degree of self-acceptance can happen. Some of these tendencies, this kind of self-sabotage, there's a workaround. It's not just something that they have to be beholden to, but they can actually break free of that pattern. They can break free of that cycle. And it feels like for a lot of people, that idea of freedom, that contemplation of freedom, the sensation of freedom, it brings forth such newness and such exposure that in and of itself may have been what they ran from, what they ran back into the comfortable and the familiar, the very mundane, the very predictable, something that they've had experience with, something that they know, territory that is within their sort of working knowledge or lexicon. These are feelings. These are the ways that dynamics work out. This is how I show up in partnership. This is how I show up for myself. And in this situation with you, your direct experiences with one another, your conversations, the energies exchange back and forth, all that goes out the window, and it's almost limitless possibility. The freedom of so much choice that might have really frightened this person back into themselves, or to cause them to sort of back off from the connection to some extent, or even do things to kind of undermine and destroy the connection in various sort of ways, all because of this aspect of sort of the freedom that this connection invited them to embrace, and a sense of kind of like, I don't know how to navigate in that territory. I don't know if I'm even worthy of that. I don't know if it's even permissible or allowed for me to break free of sort of the defined nature of who I am and how I move through the world in reality. They also say I am more spiritual because of you. So that's that confirmation of kind of these bigger picture sort of questions. It goes far beyond somebody who's just, I don't know how I feel. I don't know if this is love or lust. This is the element of kind of, with that idea of embracing the notion of love or romance, or, romantic inclinations. It feels that that's just the tip of the iceberg for kind of the full spectrum of love. In some way, the romantic inclinations towards you lead them on a deeper journey of discovery into embracing themselves more fully. Things that they had never questioned about their reality. They've just gone through the motions, maybe aware of these patterns of self-sabotage, but feeling very just, this is the pattern. This is who I am. This is how I've been programmed. So I need to just accept that this is the reality, and understand that a certain series of kind of events or possibilities or outcomes are the result of this part of my nature. But with you, it's something where now there are choices, now there are options, there's freedom to redefine themselves, there's freedom to reinvent themselves that they hadn't allowed themselves before. They hadn't been motivated to look at things from that angle. And so it almost feels like something where there's a necessity here, for those of you where there's some kind of reconnection or development, a furtherance of this situation beyond the no contact. There's some kind of deep dive that this person is needing to do in this energy of space and distance. They've needed to sort of demolish the connection in order to dig very deeply within for kind of components or qualities of themselves, or to even develop new aspects of these things for them to be able to contribute to a different kind of foundation with you, a more solid dynamic if you reconnect with one another, something that is more built to last as opposed to kind of built on illusions and superficiality. They also say, I feel frustrated and stressed out. So the nature of these questions and even the answers and the solutions and the possibilities that they are discovering about themselves as a person, about sort of love and partnership, the ways in which they contemplate events that have happened with you, and kind of a desire for solutions. There's a feeling of kind of, if I'd known then what I know now, or almost sort of like I see a destination that I want to reach with you, but I don't quite know how to get to that place. The journey to that is through these kind of darkened corners within, things that I have avoided looking at very intentionally for quite some time, and yet I am faced with in order to be able to kind of transcend through the experience of whatever's been activated within them by virtue of dealing with you, in order to be able to access and tap in more deeply to feelings that may have come from nowhere and then kind of emerged very suddenly, came forth very unexpectedly, a friendship, or even just somebody you were, sort of you had a commitment with, but then there are these bigger sort of waves and implications of, I want to take this further. I'm seeing forever with you. I'm seeing long term with you. I'm seeing so much more than we have. And although things may have been moving at an organic pace, there's almost this element of, they've toppled things over to create that necessity of distance for self-reflection. And that's something that they're putting a lot of pressure on themselves to break free from that. They're stressed at the fact that this has been the result, that they followed that pattern of fear, that wound, that kind of tendency within to sort of self-sabotage. So now that's something they have to deal with in order to get back to a place of neutrality within themselves, where they can offer something measurable to you going forward. And they also say, I can't wait to love you. So feelings that are wanting to be unleashed, feelings that have not gone away in the distance and in the silence. The more they dive deeply within and kind of look at and observe what has happened, triggers within themselves, patterns within themselves, coupled with all this regret, and even just the sheer act of kind of acknowledging that, clearing away some space of kind of illusion and the unknown, there's a sense of hope and possibility that, as triggering, as confrontational as this element of sort of questioning who they are in a sense of entirety is, on the other side of that is also an access point to a deep and profound love that they did not know was possible, that they have not experienced before. It's almost the idea of nobody has challenged and triggered them to such a great extent that they were willing to go through this process of like purge and metamorphosis. And so a lot of this being very kind of uncomfortable, very confrontational, but also gems or indicators that they've gotten of sort of maybe glimpses and visions of sort of what awaits on the other side, downloads or dreams of kind of a future potential with you, or a future kind of potential of how they may feel about themselves, and what that could generate in terms of loving partnerships and kind of deep connections, to where they're persisting, they're persevering beyond sort of this block, beyond this period of distance that has been created. It's love that's leading them kind of deeper within themselves. It's love that is leading them to that place of, I want to change these circumstances between the two of us, and I feel and care so deeply about this situation enough that I'm willing to kind of look within and make the changes internally to enable sort of all of this to happen. They also say, I want to see you. So another confirmation of wanting to press forward, wanting to come out of the state of no contact, to resume your interactions with one another, resume your conversations, pick up where you left off, but with an essence of sort of not rushing forward, but being more mindful and deliberate in terms of how they navigate sort of the depth and nature of confusing feelings, a sense of almost wanting to build some new skills within, coping skills within, or at least a greater degree of self-awareness and kind of observation of these patterns of self-sabotage within themselves, so that you can actually see proof of growth. It's not just empty promises, but it's almost a sense of kind of anticipating that there'll be some other point of trigger if they were to reconnect with you, or sort of pick up where you left off, kind of bring the connection back online, and understanding that inevitably we will most likely kind of reach this place where someone gets startled, someone gets spooked, somebody's emotions are kind of kicked off into the shadow realm. And rather than kind of just running away from the situation, it's almost sort of a vow or a dedication that they've made to, I'm gonna make some sort of effort that I have a different kind of skill, I have a different kind of ability, I have a different willingness or awareness to kind of pause and not just leap into that place of trigger, to pause and maybe talk it through, to pause and even just sort of be mindful within oneself and to reflect and say, is this my instinct leading me in a direction? Is this truly a red flag kind of pulling me away from this situation? Or is it that wounded part, that pattern of self-sabotage that's wanting to kick in and undermine things? And they also say, am I deserving of your love? So again, somebody who knows that work is necessary on their part, that they're a work in progress. It feels like they keep sort of evaluating that in some way, although this is a process for themselves. It's self-evaluation, it's self-healing, it's personal growth. There are also, it feels like, these periods of clarity, these moments of lucidity, where in the midst of kind of this heavy lifting or this very confrontational energy that they're being faced with, it's an understanding that as I step into a willingness to kind of be present for myself fully, it enables me to be more present to kind of all the variations of what's possible in sort of a dynamic with you further down the road. Sort of like as they are healing and coming into more balance within themselves, there's an understanding that it sets the stage to create more healing and more balance, and the possibility of a reconciliation, reconnection, or evolving the situation with you. So I'm going to get some initials. These can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. X, U, V, A, F, U, D, N, C, P, S, B, R, M, O, J, B, P, D, and Y. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters, including a longer video version of this reading that involves more cards and more decks. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And I'm running a sale in my Etsy shop now through the end of the year. All the jewelry and dream catchers are marked down by 25%. So if you've had your eye on anything, now would be a great time to take advantage of that sale. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link to that in the description box of the video, as well as in the channel section of my page. The format over there consists of readings related to topics other than love and romance. So if you're looking for something a little different from me, that is the place to find it. I thank you for your support there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.